put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump.
I feel like this is, how can I say this? I feel like it's pretty difficult to figure out. Do me a favor, just turn the TV off. I feel like it's pretty difficult to figure out exactly what the true reaction is, because you can't really believe the media. The media is kind of one-sided and will only play the reaction. That's the wrong one, I'm sorry. That's the reaction of one side. So what we see on TV is the reaction of all the people out in the streets. And I believe that that's happening, no doubt. Like, I know people who actually, called me up and said, oh, people out here, playing music. They're so excited, but what they're not showing is, like, how many people are upset about it. So we're only seeing one side. It's just interesting to see how this is playing out, Elinaj. I swear, it's like you only get to see one side. The mainstream media is only going to give you one side, and they're not going to give you the other side. So, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like Black people are, for the majority, and let me not use that word, for many, they are excited. I guess I'm delving into the second question. They're excited because they, number one, feel like Trump is a racist. And I can say this about not just Black people, but a lot of people who don't like him. They feel like he's a racist. They consider him a bully, narcissistic, which he might be. But in terms of what it means for them, I don't know that they've even thought about that. Like, what the election means for them, I don't think they even think about it on that level. They only think about the emotional piece of it of, I don't like you. I don't like you, so, I don't know. It's just interesting to see this play out. I mean, I just feel like a lot of Black people are just, again, have acquiesced to the Democratic Party, and they're just going to keep going down that road because that's what they're used to. Remember, we had the conversation about change is hard. People, even if things aren't right for you, people still do the same things because that's what they know, and there's some level of comfort in doing the same stuff. I don't know. It's just interesting to see. Go ahead, what's your take?
I asked the question several times on Facebook for people that were supporting Biden and Harris. I asked the question several times, can you give me one valid political reason why you or I should support them? And I was attempting to steer the conversation away from the popularity contest aspect of it and just ask a very sensible question, very practical question, and which should be a very easy question to name one practical political purpose or reason as to why I should support these people or why you should support these people.
Right.
I received so much negative feedback.
Negative towards you or just negative, period? Negative
towards me.
Like, how dare you even ask that question?
Exactly. One person told me I don't have a right. I don't have any authority to even ask the question. A lot of people responded simply by accusing me of being a Trump supporter just because I raised the question.
Yep.
It was a lot of what I call psychosis, which we're going to get into defining that word psychosis in a minute. A lot of it represented what I would call duress, and we're going to get into the definition of that as well.
Yep.
A lot of it deals with the concept of esoteric knowledge. We're going to get into the definition of that as well. But not one person
could tell you anything definitive.
Would answer the question directly, and that's actually kind of scary.
Yeah, but that is what they know. Understand. So when you talk about psychosis and duress, they understand where people are. And when I say they, the media, all the people who have pushed that agenda, they know that people in those conditions. And they do more and more things to continue to push you into that psychosis or that duress, because they understand when you're in that situation, it doesn't take much for you to be scared, and to do what people kind of tell you to do. Whatever they say, they don't question it. It's really interesting. I mean, we're really looking, it's just an interesting thing to see. Like I said, I think on a few calls before, it's so wild to feel like you're on the outside looking in, and like things seem so very clear to you, and others are like, it's so not clear. And you're like, you don't see that's what they're doing. And people don't see that. They really just don't see that. So I don't know.
You
Crazy time.
know what it reminds me of, Bev? When I was
What's that?
when I was a teenager, you ever heard of a card game called 3-Card Molly?
No.
3-Card Molly is when you have the 3 cards, 2 of them are black, 1 of them is red, and you shift them around, and the person got to find the red card.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, I learned to play 3-Card Molly, and I would go around and take people's money, jewelry, all kind of stuff, and naturally I grew out of that. But in that, I could go out to different places in Philadelphia. You would have different street hustlers on the street, on the bus, whatever, taking people's money, and I would be on the sideline watching. I knew the hustle very well. So I would be on the sideline watching people literally lose their rent money. And I'm like, man, it's just crazy, the fact that people can't see the hustle. They can't see that the guy that's winning the money is with the guy that's doing the card game in the first place, and that they all working together. And that he not really winning the money, he just doing that for show, so you can get excited and put your money down. And I'm sitting on the sideline and I'm wishing that I could tell this person, yo, you being hustled. There's really no way you could possibly win. But I can't get but so much involved without endangering myself in the situation. I kind of feel similar now with this whole election situation. Right. It's like the more I get involved and try to tell people like, yo, it's a hustle. If you just pay close attention, it's all sleight of hand. The more I get involved, the more endangered I feel, the more under attack I feel. And so I'm left to sit on the sideline and just observe it and watch the ship sink and go down, and just position myself so that people don't pull me down with them.
Yep. But like I said, people have said so many times, it's the lesser of two evils.
Oh, wow.
That's I've heard that many times. Oh, it's the lesser of two evils. It's just an interesting thing, and I struggle a little bit. I struggle because on one hand, I recognize that there is a layer, or an elite layer, that controls both parties, just both parties. And that we are given the perception of choice. We're given the perception that we have choice. They put, you have either the left or the right. So you have those options, and people feel comfortable in those options. When in reality, it's whatever they choose for it to be at that time. Wow. For whatever agenda they have set forth, so, and that is difficult for people. And I recognize that that's very difficult for people, because I think people are good-natured. They're really good-natured. They want to believe. They really do want to believe that their government is for them, and that their government is not going to do anything that would harm them or anything underhanded. I don't think they believe that 100%. They recognize that there's some, shady politicians and shady things in the government. But I think they believe that overall, that these institutions that are set up are to benefit us. And they don't want to know that that's not true. I mean, they really don't want to know, because I do think that it would do something to some of these people's psyche. Like, how do you move from a place where you're comfortable? A lot of people are comfortable, even if in the back of their mind, they know what I'm doing is wrong. I know this food, I shouldn't be eating this food. I understand what this food is doing. I understand what they put in this food, but I like eating this food because it makes me feel good. And so I'm going to continue to eat this. And I don't want you to tell me or challenge me about it, because then it'll just rock my whole world. It'll rock everything that I'm used to doing, that I'm comfortable doing. And I don't want to do that. So a lot of people don't want to hear the truth, because the truth is hard to digest. So they stay in that lane and they justify why you're wrong, because part of it is, I think they believe they understand what we're saying when we tell them and challenge them about that, but they don't want to allow themselves to hear it, because then they're afraid that it might just sink in, and it might just make you have to be more accountable in terms of your actions and what you do. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to they want to just live their lives. They just want to be right in that middle. Let me eat what I want. Let me do everything I want to do, and I'll just deal with the consequences as they come. And then I can claim ignorance. Oh, I didn't know. They don't want to take that stand. And it is difficult. I mean, it's just like the conversation we were having about, being on drugs versus not being on drugs, and how I said, getting up every day, doing what you're supposed to do, struggling sometimes is difficult. That is, to me, that's difficult. It's sometimes a little easier just to say, well, forget everything. I'm just going to sit here. I ain't going to do nothing. I'm going to just let the chips fall where they may. But to the strength you need to kind of get up through adversity and continue to move forward, it's a lot of strength that's required to do that. So it's the same thing with eating right, doing the things that you need to do, not partaking in things that everybody partake in, because you recognize it's not good for you in the long run. And so, it's just interesting. I just think that it's hard. And like you say, it goes to duress. They understand people are in duress. It goes into, like you said, the psychosis. It can really impact people's psyche, particularly older people. People in their 60s, 70s, they don't want to rock the boat at that age. They just like, look, I'm on the downslide. Let me just live my life, thinking the things that I've thought. I don't want to be challenged. So, I mean, that's what we get. I think that's why the young people are the ones who are challenging things. It's the young people for the most part, because they've grown up in a different time. They have access to so much more information that we had access to. So they're challenging things. They question everything. So.
What have you seen any of the footage of Biden in his pedophile ways displayed publicly?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rubbing hair, sniffing hair. Yeah.
I've seen. There's a video that I have where he's literally touching on a little girl. He's touching on her underdeveloped chest, and she's literally trying to squirm.
Oh my God.
As he's trying to feel on her chest.
Were they on a stage?
Yeah, they were taking pictures, and they were.
And she was extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. So here's the argument that I get. How is it that you have allegations about Joe Biden, and allegations, but no proof? No one has come out to say that he's done anything. No one has ever claimed that he's done anything inappropriate to them. But then you have Trump, who we know was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, who we know dealt with underage girls and trafficking. And we know was part of, Miss America, and he said these things. So how is it that you claim these things with no evidence against one person, but then exonerate another person, per se, who has more evidence mounted against them. That's the argument I get.
Well, I received that argument all the way up until I found this one particular video that I'm speaking of where they did a close-up. It's different when the camera's it's a little farther back, but on this video, they zoomed in. And so it's like so apparent that his hand is creeping on her little chest. And it's so zoomed in that you can see her face uncomfortable and trying to squirm away.
Yeah.
Even for the people that were initially giving me that argument, not all of them, because the psychosis runs deep. But for some of them, it was like, oh, you can't deny that. Versus some of the videos where you just see him kissing on kids, you can kind of explain that away. Well, they can kind of explain that away. But I found, like I said, I found this one video. I'm gonna send it to you when I get a chance.
Okay.
It's zoomed in, it's close up, and you can't deny it. Then there are other videos. Huh?
Go ahead.
Then there are other videos where he's kissing on his child and he's saying, don't tell anybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen that one. That's disgusting.
I'm gonna get you.
That's just disgusting.
There's another.
See,
huh?
These are the reasons why it's hard for people to understand that, because see, the people who believe that part of him also believe that there's this whole you know, not ring, but these individuals, this is what they do. This is what they condone. And then it goes even more extreme to like killing children, sacrificing. And so that's too much for people's psyche. They can't wrap their heads around that. They are, so instead of believing or taking it in little by little and saying, wow, we live in a crazy world, I don't put anything past people. They're like, I can't even allow myself to believe this stuff. Like, I can't believe that. That couldn't be happening. I mean, it's the same thing about, you know, aliens. You know, the same people, like, I don't know if I believe that that's, you know, because they've never seen it. So they just refuse to open themselves up to the possibility that those things happen. And so that's the reason why people just are like, I can't believe this. I can't possibly believe that, because you can't tell me that there are people who have hunting parties with kids, that they put them out in the woods and they hunt them. Right. And they do these crazy things. I mean, because I've heard some crazy things, and it is off. It's almost unfathomable, you know? So I don't know. I understand how people just cannot even believe that. And when you cannot come with concrete evidence, it's hard to persuade a person who's already not willing to open up to that kind of stuff. So,
you know, I sent it to this one sister. I mean, she was going in on me. I'm just telling her, like, your energy is misdirected. Like, you know, you don't need to direct that much energy towards me and all of this. You know, I'm very cut and dry. So her response to the Biden video that I just sent to you, her response was to send me a link to the FBI's website to report our behavior. Her best.
It was that obvious.
Huh?
It was that obvious.
Well, I mean, her best comeback, that was her best comeback, is to say, if you really care about child abuse, then report it. Like that was her final comeback. You know what I mean? As if me reporting Joe Biden to the FBI is gonna
go anywhere.
The point is that I'm not interested in supporting a pedophile, whether it's Biden or Trump or Jeffrey Epstein or whoever.
Right.
I don't want to be engaged in anything that they're involved in.
Yep. I mean, but it's so many, like, it's, first of all, you know, when I look at him talk, I really do believe he has dementia. Like, I feel like he has like the beginning stages of dementia, where he doesn't really remember what he's talking about. And so, excuse me, I just wonder how anyone can listen to him talk and feel confident in him being the president if they believe, you know, not that the president has any power per se, but even being in that position, like I just, they have to understand that there's some other people that he's literally a puppet. Like at least you, with certain presidents who seem a lot more lucid, there's this, you know, perception that they have control, even if they don't. But with him being the way he is, you understand that he is not capable of really doing anything on his own. There have to be people behind him telling him what to say, what to do, how to do it, because I don't think he has the ability to even make any kind of real sound decisions. I mean, and I don't see it. I just don't even understand it. I've seen so many videos of him and him saying stuff, and it's just his words are like slurring together, you know, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. So, I mean, I get that why they would want him in office, but I'm saying the people who are in charge, but not the voters.
Right. I mean, it goes back to that word psychosis. The definition is a severe mental disorder in which thought and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with external reality. Wow. I need to read
They
it.
would think that's us, though.
Huh?
They would say that about us. They would say that about us. They would argue we have psychosis. You understand that, right?
Right, and I've been attacked with that one as well. And my response to that was, I didn't wait until November of 2020 to start studying politics. I didn't wait until November of 2020 to begin to figure out who these people are. I'm not the one that's totally ignoring 42 years of political office and only focusing on this one moment. I'm not ignoring the truancy laws that Kamala Harris set forth that locked up so many Black mothers. I'm ignoring the record-breaking number of arrests or prosecutions that she has under her belt for marijuana convictions, and then going on a Breakfast Club saying Snoop Dogg and Tupac is her favorite rappers and she likes smoking marijuana. I'm not overlooking any of that. I'm not overlooking the evidence that she buried in certain people's cases, knowing that they were innocent, and still kept them behind bars in order to advance her career. I'm not ignoring the sexual escapades that she participated in order to reach the point that she's at right now. And a lot of people are ignoring all of that. What did it say?
But the thing about it, though, Alanaj, is that they don't. They're not even ignoring. Well, they're not even researching it because they don't want to know. Do you understand? They don't want to know these things. So so if I don't research it, if I don't look into it, I can plead ignorant. I never knew. So if it does come out, and if things do turn out that way, I can say, well, I didn't know. I just didn't know. You understand what I'm saying? So people, I mean, people do these things on purpose. They don't want to know on purpose because they want to be comfortable in saying they don't know something and it be the truth. Oh, I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? So people aren't researching it. They know about some of her record because they've heard of it. Well, clearly the mainstream media is not sharing that. You have to research to find these things. The mainstream media is not going to tell you about these records. They're not going, I mean, they might bring it up in a very soft way, but they're not really bringing things up and being hard about the questions that they ask. So, I mean, that's why you get what you get, because most people are low information consumers. They only need this much information to formulate a decision, and that's it. And if the decision comes based on what that media what your news tells you, they believe and they go with it. And that's it. They don't do research.
You mentioned Biden and his dementia, right? I want to go back to something that our OGs have been talking about long before all of this. They talked about the pineal gland. Some of our doctors that research melanin, they talk about the pineal gland. And one of the things they talk about is that in the white race, the pineal gland is calcifying. Their pineal gland is literally dying. And as a result, they're unable to comprehend reality in an efficient fashion. And I've always held on to that. I had no real way of proving it scientifically, but I held on to it just to kind of observe. And the way it's looking right, and so the science is that we as a melanin dominant people, we have the ability, by being in tune with nature and our surroundings, we have the ability to accelerate the frequency of the planet in a way that they will be unable to keep up with. And so as a result, mentally, they'll start to break down. And I always held on to that theory, because now in 2020, we're seeing that. We're seeing all the different videos of Karens and white folks spazzing out, you know what I mean, over the dumbest situations. When you hear Biden talk, he literally sounds like, I've worked in nursing homes, and he literally sounds like some of the old people in nursing homes whose life.
Without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Literally. I mean, I'm not even sure how other people are watching this and not hearing what I'm hearing.
Ellen, I know that. That's what I'm saying. Like, what are they seeing? Like, are they seeing what I see? What do they see? And when I say this, they don't really have any response to it. They laugh it off, or it becomes a deflection about, well, Trump's a racist. And so I guess they would rather have, a pedophile who has dementia, who, I don't know. I don't know what the decision is that they make. They've made these decisions, and I guess they feel comfortable in those decisions. They've made some rationalizations on how they, decide. And, I mean, it's just, I don't know. We're watching a movie. When I saw some of the clips of, and I don't watch like regular television, but when I watched some of the clips of people crying, and I was like, Lord have mercy, this is straight up theater. This is straight theater. I don't know. I don't know how, I don't know. It's just a crazy situation.